Hi everyone, David Mail here. Today we're going to do something really cool and exciting. We're going to predict future Bitcoin prices with Profit, which is a library in Python for predictions, which is built or created by Facebook employees, data scientists, and it was created to have something simple, but that you could use at scale. It uses GAM, which is general additive models. It's similar to smoothing and regression, and let's get started. So first off, what you need to do, if you have issues with some of these libraries, which would be Pandas, PyStan, and FB Profit, especially FB Profit, you will have to go and backtrack. What that means is if you have too new of a version of Python, you're going to have to go take these three, not the Python itself, but you're going to take these three and take them back to the correct version backwards. You're going to have to go to 104 for Pandas, 219.11 for PyStan, and FB Profit is over here. So you have to do these three things basically. Pip, this can be installed right here in Jupyter Notebooks. I found that I had to use Conda outside of it and use it in the Anaconda prompt, which is like your DOS prompt. You can see it when you run Anaconda. And so you'll run this one first, then you'll run this one for PyStan, and then you'll run this one for FB Profit right there. Okay. Once you do that, it'll all work. You can see here I have it installed. That's the way to get around it. There are some other routes you can find on the internet of people telling you how to do this and how to do that, and it's very mysterious, and most of it doesn't work. So I would stick with what does work, which is right here again. Pandas, roll it back, then do PyStan, and then install your FB Profit. Okay? By rolling it back, you're installing a previous version of Pandas, PyStan, and FB Profit. Once you have those in, then you can load your libraries. If you do not have any of these libraries, the regular libraries, just use pip like right here and install it. Pip 3 install numpy in this case, exclamation mark in front of it. Get rid of the number sign that's commenting it out. So here you can see we have import GC, import TQDM from DQDM. Import numpy as NP, pandas as PD, PyLab. We're importing RC parameters from PyLab, matplotlib, which is your matplot library, pyplot as PLT, sklearn metrics importing the mean square error. From CppyStats, we're importing probplot. And from date, we're importing datetime as DT. From datetime, we're importing date, time delta, and then from FB Profit, we're doing profit. See how that works? So you have to install FB Profit, and then from there you run profit. Then we have percent matplotlib in line, so you can see your stuff, your graphs in the same line. Import OS, import warnings, warning, filter warnings, ignore, and stock underscore df. This is where we're actually loading in the data. So the data for this Bitcoin data set we got from Yahoo Finance. It's very simple to use. You enter in whatever stock ticker symbol you want, Bitcoin, whatever it is. There is a historic prices, historic data tab. Click that button, click that. And then what it'll do is you can export that data. Pick the date range that you want and export it. In this case, we have 2014. As you see here, once it's loaded in, we use this print stock df. So you've got stock df equals PD, which is pandas, dot read underscore CSV, and then the location of your CSV file, wherever it is you put on your computer. You can put on a folder file in your main desktop, wherever you want. And then this print stock df, because we put it in stock df, stock underscore data frame, that's what df's for. You print it, it looks like this, kind of ugly. So instead of that, just hit stock df. Because data frame, look what happens. It comes out nice, much nicer and easier to read. You can see the last row has not a number in it, in the whole row. Doesn't matter, that's fine. Next, we're going to change the data formatting. Now look at this also. We have date, open, high, low, close, adjusted close volume. We're not interested in anything but the date and the closing price, because obviously, why would you want anything other than the closing price? If it hit a high during the day but didn't stay there, I mean, you could use it if you wanted to. That shows a little variability and variance, but that's up to you. I would use close, is what most people use. Then you've got change date column formatting we're going to change it from month date, year to year, month, date, and slightly different. So they had month, 1M, DD for date, and 4Ys for year. We're going to switch it and flip it around. And we're also, in doing this, using this to date time from pandas, we're changing from an object to a date time, which is needed for profiting, needs that data on input. So you've got stock DF data frame of the field date TS. We want a new one, like the time series. We're creating a new field or new column, and we're saying it equals PD, which is pandas, to date time, stock DF, which is our original stock data frame, date field, and the format is different. See this right here? So you got to put this in there. And then when I hit stock DF, what happens is I have added date TS to it. See that right here? And see how I flipped it around? It was this way, and now it's got dashes in between it. See that? So that's what we want, is the dashes, and that's what it gives it. That's what we want there, to look like that. Okay? Now, once we have that, we use stock DF info, and that will give us the info and tell us that we have a date time field and we have an object field for date. See that right here? Date is object, date TS is date time. See that? So we have that. We have our close as a float 64. So now we're creating a shortened new data frame called stock DF2. We're keeping our DF1, it's still there. So now we're going to go to stock DF2. Why? Because we only want the two fields, date TS and close. So if you look right here, you've got stock DF, date TS, and close. And just make sure they're spelled the correct same way, because it won't know, like, so if you put a non-capital instead of a capital, it won't see, it won't find it. All right, so we're putting this in stock underscore data frame 2, DF2. Then we're going to visualize the data. All right, so we're going to rename the fields. So we got date, TS, and close. We're going to have DS and Y instead. So if we take stock DF, we put it into graph underscore data, so we're not changing that. And then what we do is we go through this right here, this whole smorgasbord of stuff here. It's not that bad difficult. We're changing the columns to be DS and Y. That's all profit knows. It needs to have DS and Y. Dates and DS, I assume, stands for your dates or whatever, and then Y is going to be the number column, what you're trying to predict. So once we have that, we have to put the graph data Y as type float. That's the next part here. We do that here. Then we've got graph data DS equals graph data DS as type date time 64. So we're making sure it's date time 64 and float. We print it, and then we go down here. We got RC params, which we loaded in his library above. Figure.fig size equals 15,5. That's the size that we want of our graph. Okay. Plot.plot, that's the main thing of graphing here. We're going to graph DS and graph data.y. See that right here? So we're graphing these guys. We're just pulling them in from right here. Okay. So now once you get here, I make it a little bit prettier by adding title and X and Y labels. So we got the title will be closing price history dash Bitcoin. I picked font size 15. And then we got the X label and Y label of date and closing price. So that close price US dollars, $sign. Okay, and they're both 13 font size. So once you do that, you end up with your DS and Y. See it right here? And then look at this. Here's our output for that data for the period we have. We picked this. We've got 2014 data all the way up till today, which is 2021, December. And you can see Bitcoin has raised a lot. So if you bought Bitcoin down here, you've made a good bit if you could sell it anywhere up in this range. Okay, so now we have that, but that's not the prediction. This is just the current closing price, all the history of the closing price. So next we're going to do is we're going to load in profit. That's the library, right? So once we have that, we want to load this in. It's called PR equals profit with nothing inside it, PR.fit, and then we're going to bring in graph data from above. Once you do this, it'll give you this little warning here saying that, you have daily seasonality or not. Usually it uses monthly and weekly seasonality. You can add daily. It tells you here how to do it. You have to run it with daily seasonality equals true to override. We're not going to worry about that. Okay, that's just a warning. Leave that alone. So then you've got, once you've run that, then you've got to go down here. We've got this, and we're loading in PR dot make future data frame, periods equals to frequency equals min. And we're putting that in future. See, PR is from profit. So when we run profit, it goes to PR, and we got PR.fit. So we got PR.make future data frame, future. If we type in future, this is what you get is the DS column here, 0 through 2,643 rows of one column. Then what we need to do is this right here. PR make future data frame periods equals 30. So how many periods out do you want, and what kind of periods do you want? In this case, I'm doing weekly, which is equals W. If you want to do monthly, it'd be equal M. If you want to do daily, it'd be equals D. And you can even do minute-wise if you want to. I don't know why you want to do that, but it depends on the data you're using. So I'm using 30 periods weekly of forecasting, and then I've got this one right here, which is pr.predict future, right? And we're putting that into forecast closing prices or close prices. And then we got pr.plot forecast close prices, and we're going back negative 335 to show how much data we want to show on there. So if I put figure.show, here you can see it, and clearly from here where this kicks in, we got 30 periods right here, 30 periods coming in from here, which is negative 335. If I put back like a negative 1,000, we'd be somewhere back in here. Okay, I want to show a prediction based off of a point here where it's starting to see some kind of still going upward, but we can see there's some anomalies, up and down, and some swinging going on versus here where it was just all pure upward. And that's where it's telling me it's going to go. So that's our prediction on there. It's showing it. That's the forecast on there on the data from 2014. Next, we will want the forecasted values, and some different models you use may or may not give these as well. In this case, it's very simple. Use forecast underscore close underscore prices, which we did. We put that in there, negative 365 to get a full year if we wanted. And what this does, if you look in here, we've got the beginning of this year, but we've also got next year and stuff in here. So at 2022, 605, 612, 619, 626. Remember, we are doing what? This is our actual data where it's daily, right? But here you can see that it is weekly every 7 days because we did the weekly option above. Now, when you look at this data, you have trends, DS, which is your date. You have lower and upper bounds. You have lower trends, upper trends. Most important here, let's take this guy all the way across here, is this last column called Y hat. That is the actual value that's being used right here to predict based on. So if you need to know the exact values and how they got to $80,000 of value on 703 of next year, that's how you get there. Okay, because if you look at the other values, they are almost 82,000, and then you have a lower bound of 74,000, upper bound of 86,000, and so on. All right, so in the next video, I'm going to show you what if you don't want to look at all this data? What if I want to play with it a little bit and I want to say, oh, you know what? It's got a huge upward growth here, and I don't want to skew the data here. I want to stick with just from here to here, right? And see where that goes and predict based off of that. Well, you got to forecast, or you got to filter it based on, to maybe year to date for this year. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. So stay tuned, watch for the next video. I'm going to walk you through that and do the same exact thing all over again. But instead of doing this with all this data where there's a lot of really low prices here and massive growth of Bitcoin in between, I'm going to show it to you with just from 2021 onward. So it's not got this huge skew going into it beforehand. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful and informational. And please stay tuned for the next video in this series. Thanks.